All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday, May 5th, 2021 meeting of the Chappaqua Central School District Board of Education. The board has been in executive session discussing contract negotiations, employment history of particular persons, and matters of safety. May I have a motion to reconvene the public session?
I'll move. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Now please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Holly.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I'd like to start the President's report by noting an item that's in 4.1, Superintendent's recommendation. We have a notable retirement on our executive, on our central administration, and I just want to say a few words. We will be approving John Chow's resignation for purposes of retirement under item 4.1, and I would just like to say a few words for now about how meaningful John has been to this district, and also to me personally. John has been here since 2007, and John, correct me if there's something I get wrong here, but I say it was 2007 because that was my year as PTA president, and I was very concerned with how I was going to learn about the school district budget. That was my main concern. And John had just arrived in the district, and I met him at the Ed Center. And from the moment I met him, I knew that I would be in good hands. I would know exactly what was going on because he gave us such a sense of confidence. And he was competent and kind. And so I just want to say, John, that I know nothing is forever and that everyone retires at some point, but you have kept our district running very smooth and steady. We have a AAA rating, and that doesn't happen just by accident. You've led us through energy performance contract, significant bond, the cleanest state audit, state controller's audit that is possible. What they told us after the state audit is just keep doing what you're doing. And that's unheard of. That doesn't happen. You've kept us under the tax cap. You have given so much of your time to members of the community, through finance advisory committees, etc. So, like I said, I just want to say a few words for now, but I just want to say that the district will miss you, and I will miss you tremendously personally. So I just want to see if anyone else would like to say a few words at this time.
John, you've been a constant presence since I joined this school when we moved here, and I know that your legacy will live on with all of the budgets and the projects that you have ushered through, especially all of the bond projects. But you will be missed, and these meetings will definitely not be the same, especially during budget season without you. I wish you the best in your retirement.
John, Vicki spoke of what you've done, in brief for the district professionally, but I want to thank you personally because when I came on the board, you took the time to make sure that I not only had all the information I needed to understand things like the budgeting process, but were so willing and giving of your time to make sure I understood it and didn't just have it, but understood what all the documentation meant and what the process was. And for that, I am so thankful because without it, I would have been so lost. And I really want to thank you personally for taking the time. And I'm sure you've done it with everybody who's come on the board. And we will miss you. So thank you.
It's hard for me when you said John's been here since 2007 because I always felt like John was here forever. I can't believe I was actually in this district before John. But personally, I feel like I've known him for a long time before I came on this board. when I started work with the Chappaqua School Foundation and was one of the vice presidents of grants. And so John was the money guy, and we always had to make sure everything ran by John, and that's where I first got to know John. But I also got to have some sort of appreciation for just the multitasking that John does. I mean, when there's ever a question in the district, it ultimately ends up going as John. So I just then, having a newfound appreciation when I joined the board 4 years ago. Again, John was the first one to reach out and said, "You gotta come talk to me." And his time, his concern, his love for this district, his caring for everyone here and making sure all of us felt like we were up to speed and welcome. And your constant energy has just been such a bonus to work with. And I'm just sad. I'm thrilled for you. I know we were lucky to have you for as long as we did. I think this is terrific for you, and we will just miss you terribly. And I just want to tell you, the district will miss you, and I will very much miss you personally. Thank you, John.
So I know Vicki said that we would pass resolution 4.1. I'm not sure if I'm going to vote for that. It's still probably passed whether I vote or not. So I know we've always joked, John, and you always said, like, how can I retire and what would I do? And I told you I joined the school board, and you always said to me, well, you're going to retire, catch up with me someday. So I'm glad you're retiring. I always told you if you do retire, you have to find something else to do. So I know you're going to keep moving on. You're not going to sit in a couch and watch television all day. That's not your style. You're going to keep your mind occupied and do good things elsewhere. One thing that has been a constant since I've been on the board is being able to sleep at night, knowing that you were taking care of our books and knowing that you were taking care of our district in more than just a financial way. But you did run the business office. I've gotten calls from parents this year who, I guess every day you're at Bell. I haven't been to Bell because I don't drop anybody up there. But you take the kids, you help the kids get out of cars and get to Bell. I have parents calling me up saying that their children want to know where Mr. Chow is. If they don't see you in the morning. And that you're, I don't know how many of the districts the assistant superintendent for business is as well known as you are. I usually think of people who are in the back room somewhere. You're part of our district, always been part of our district out front. So I will miss you, John. I will keep in touch with you, you know that. And we'll have to have a cup of tea sometime. Thank you.
Well, John, I don't know if you want to, you don't have to say anything now. We didn't really warn you.
I think I'd like to say something.
Okay.
I just, like,
You just turn your mic on, Joe. We can't hear you.
So, at this point, I'm really very mixed feelings. I think that the most important part is really, I'm just really, really full of gratitude to my colleagues here and this board. And I just tell you what I did today. I actually talked to 3 of the former board members who were on the first board that hired me. So I talked to Janet Benton and Jay Shapiro and Lisa Davis. Because you know what, I really want to thank them. And then also I wrote an email to David Flashman. I really want them to know that they really have given me an opportunity. And I really enjoy my years here. And it's just that I didn't do anything on my own. I have a great team, have very good colleagues working with me, and a great business office staff, and Joe Gamama. So I think
I'm just very, very, very grateful. And so thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much.
May I, Vicki? So,
Our team will have the opportunity to honor John in June when we do our retirement ceremony. So, but I guess I would just share, John, you're so much more than the assistant superintendent for business in this district. And, you're going to be sorely missed by so many of us for so many different reasons. And, you started my first year here, which was very challenging, and you're ending your career here in another year that is very challenging. And you've been shoulder to shoulder with me the entire way. And I really appreciate you for that. I do want to share, and also in the agenda, that we have an intern that will be coming to district if approved tonight by the board to help support the transition, because obviously this is a major position for us in our district. So we have a candidate who's an experienced business administrator who's retired, who will come back to us as we begin the search for our new assistant superintendent, which Tony is already ahead of, and will be advertising in the New York Times this weekend. But we look forward to honoring John all the way through the next 2 months here as he prepares for his retirement from our district. So thank you, John, on behalf of all of the employees here.
And just a few more brief things. First, I also want to acknowledge that this is Teacher Appreciation Week. I think the administration did a great job in the message you sent out and the video that you put together, but I just want to, again, thank our teachers so much for going over and above the call of duty during these unprecedented times. We were one of the few school districts that were open, and that is in large part because our teachers were willing to teach and come in person. And I want to note how quickly they pivoted from, last year when the pandemic hit. They pivoted so quickly to remote learning. And luckily, we were ready with the technology to do that, thanks to Adam, Tony, John, and Christine, and everyone who will have the foresight to, complete the one-on-one technology. But our teachers had a huge amount of professional learning to get through with teaching under these new conditions and with the new technology. And again, a huge amount of preparation to reopen the schools and teach in the modified strategies that we have to handle hybrid learning. And so I just want to say, once again, our teachers are a very special group. We are very lucky to have them here. And I want to say, once again, thank you so much, and happy Teacher Appreciation Week. On another note, very briefly, in terms of our equity work, last Wednesday, I attended a BIPOC family meetup that was led by Philip Marcus and Tanuki Popa, and I just want to say what a great job they did, and I also want to thank the PTA Diversity Committee and the CRE for being part of it. We had a great turnout. There were many families, and it was an important step in building community, and it was very positive. So I want to thank them for that. And also, finally, on the President's report, we have an item to approve. We have a change in the board agenda. We are moving our, we're moving our June 9th meeting to June 8th to avoid a conflict with the Horace Greeley Paramore performance. So this is item 1.1.1. May I have a motion to approve that item's resolution? And a second.
I move.
Okay, so any comments or questions on this? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's it for my President's report. Christine?
Thank you, Vicki. All right, so I'm going to invite Joseph Weiner, our Bell Middle School principal, up to the stage. And David, can you let everyone in who is waiting in the Zoom room? So tonight we have the opportunity to share with you, the Board of Education and the community, some excellent scientists who've been honored by everyone for their work. And we're going to begin as soon as everyone gets their camera on by introducing our middle school student. And Mr. Weiner will take over that responsibility, provided his microphone works. How's it going? Good. Is it working?
I think it's going well.
It's not going well. We need to take that microphone. Why don't you switch it to Ellen? Okay? And then, David, if you could let everyone into the Zoom room. And if you're in the Zoom room listening, if you could start your video so we can see you. Oh, here comes everybody.
Is this better?
Yes, yes.
And then, okay, great. Okay, so we're going to begin with Mr. Weiner. So go ahead.
Thank you and good evening. It gives me great pride to introduce Ishana Kumar, who is the winner of the Broadcom Masters competition. Broadcom Masters competition is a STEAM competition that uses local science fairs as feeders for Broadcom Masters. They received last year almost 3,500 applications and submissions. They selected 30 finalists, and Ishana rose above them all to win the competition. We're so proud of her, and I'd like to introduce her now to explain her research.
Hi, I'm Ishana. My research is about an illusion.
Hold on 1 second. We got to turn you up.
Okay, there's an illusion. It's called a Benham's disc. It's a basic black and white disc. But when it's spun, we perceive imaginary colors. Scientists have studied this disc for over 100 years, and we don't know why we perceive these imaginary colors. So through a phenomenon that's usually used to change real colors, I wanted to see if I could change the way we perceive these imaginary colors. So I tested this on human subjects, and in 83% of the time, these colors were changed. And my project helps us to further understand human color perception and the way the brain perceives objective reality versus its subjective perception.
Thank you, Ishana. And if I could also just add that Ishana was invited to participate in the TEDx event, where she'll be delivering a TED Talk about her research as well. That's happening on Saturday, and once again, we're just so proud of her, and congratulations, Ishana.
Congratulations. Thank you, Shana. Congratulations. And then we have Mr. Cresselia here who will introduce our high school team to talk about our Regeneron, one of our Regeneron winners. So go ahead, Mr. Cresselia.
Okay, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Ashana, that was amazing, by the way. Thank you. That was actually
Thank you.
wrapped. Incredible. Well, so I'm here on behalf of the high school. It's my pleasure to congratulate Alex Fitzgerald and Lori Saxena for their achievement in being named Greeley's 2 Regeneron Science Talent Search Scholars this year. So Alex here is with us. Hi, Alex. Lori, unfortunately, wasn't able to attend, but I want to tell you a little bit about the Regeneron Science Talent Search so you understand what they've achieved. It's the nation's oldest and most prestigious science and mathematics competition for high school seniors. And so Alex and Lori this year were selected from 1,760 applicants, and that ranged from 611 high schools that from across 45 states, the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and 10 countries. It's just a tremendous achievement. So their efforts and this level of research is really incredible because it really does add to the body of knowledge, scientific knowledge across the world. And I'm sure because of that, everyone's going to benefit from their work. But also our school and science department really specifically directly benefited from their research because both of them won awards for the school, $2,000 each, to be used for our science research program. And so their scholarship also serves as a model for all of our other students and an inspiration for us as well. So just congratulations, Alex and Lori, who's in here. That was just amazing. And I want to acknowledge their science research teachers this year. So Lisa Papernick and Tyler Esposito. Tyler Esposito is joining us tonight. He is our director of science research and Alex's science research teacher. So well done. Congratulations to our teachers in our entire program. This is really tremendous. And I'd like to ask Mr. Esposito to speak for a moment, just a moment about our program and to introduce our students' work. Thank you.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'll be very brief about the program. So it is a 3-year program, and we're lucky to have amazing students like Alex and Lori be a part of it. And over the course of those 3 years, the students give up extra time during the school year and during their summers in order to complete authentic science research with the help of a mentor. And they're really able to, like Mr. Corsolia said, add to our current knowledge of scientific information right now, doing this authentic science research. Based on that, they compete in many science research competitions. Each year they have the opportunity to, like the Greenlight 2020 Awards, the Regeneron Science Talent Search, and many others like WESF and JSHS. I'm going to talk quickly about Lori Saxana's project, where she investigated links between genes for regulating the circadian clock, our circadian rhythm, and its connection to individuals with diabetes and their likelihood of developing prostate cancer. It was a very interesting study that led to further knowledge in that field. She was one of our students recognized as a STS finalist, and now I get the opportunity to introduce a student of mine, Alex Fitzgerald, who I have had the honor and been very lucky to have in my class this year. I can't really say enough about Alex. Her work speaks for itself. She's a great student, a great person. She works extremely hard. She's one of our students who has done work in something she's passionate about, which is like the environment and working on being environmentally conscious. And I'm excited for her to give her overview. So I'll pass it off to you, Alex.
Hi, thank you so much for having me tonight and allowing me to speak on my research, because I am so passionate about it. So over the summer, I worked for 6 weeks on a project regarding how we can standardize methodology for extracting microplastics from seafloor sediment. That was the main focus of my research. And then I extended my research looking at the presence of microplastics in the various stages of wastewater facility treatment. I kind of put that on the back burner when writing my research paper, just because I had the most conclusive findings in the first portion of my experiment. But through various rounds of experimentation, we tried to figure out the most effective methodology. And although we didn't cook together really the perfect sequence yet, it served as some significant fundamental steps in the research that's continuing now.
Thank you, Alex.
So I just want to thank both of our scientists for sharing your research with our community tonight and with the Board of Education. It is not a small feat to be honored by Regeneron. We know that through our experience here in this district, and we're really proud of your accomplishments, and thank you for representing us so well amongst your student colleagues out there in the country, and being some of the elite few that have been chosen to be highlighted by this research organization. So we thank you, Mr. Priscilla, thank you, Mr. Esposito, and then of course Mr. Waiter, who's here tonight with us to present the middle school program, for being here, and we appreciate you and your parents, so thank you very much. Okay? Thank you. Thank you. All right, so at this point, we're going to transition to our middle school presentation. So if Dr. Mask can come up and join Mr. Weiner up here. And as the board knows, we have highlighted our elementary and our high school programs and the work that they have been engaged in with our students in the midst of our pandemic. And tonight is our night for our middle school team to highlight the work that's been happening at the middle level over the course of this school year. So as soon as we have the presentation ready to go, I will turn it over to Joe and Joseph.
All right, good evening, everyone. Great to see everyone. We're really excited to present this year. I think Joseph and I recall the summer work and everything that we did, and envisioning what this would look like this year. So we're thrilled to kind of share with you our work and a sampling of our work tonight. If you go to the second slide. So I think, again, throughout the pandemic, I think we've seen students and families and teachers and staff and whatnot, going up and down depending on what was going on in their family and out in the universe and whatnot. But we feel like we're in a place of the school year right now where we're actually starting to trend toward thriving. So we were very focused on health and a lot of those things throughout the year. But over the last couple of months, with more and more teachers being vaccinated, more families being vaccinated, being able to start doing some of the things that we love, seeing the sports happening, extracurriculars. We're in a really good space right now. I'm not saying that everyone's out of the woods, but it's just nice to be talking about some of these things and not just the things that we do during the pandemic. So if you proceed to the next slide. Everything we're going to share tonight obviously is stemmed within our strategic planning and our 6 priorities. The last priority, that cultivate equitable, affirming, culturally responsive learning environments, you'll see. I'm not sure if all of you have seen our recent equity work and what we just kind of submitted throughout the school district, but we can share that with you as well. But we're going to center it through the Association for Middle Level Education, the priorities, which Joseph's going to talk about in just a second. But we're grounded across all of these 6. So every picture, video, caption is all grounded within our 6 priorities. Just kind of start us off tonight.
Being a middle-level educator, you first need to recognize that young adolescents are unique. They're not elementary kids. They're not high school kids. They're in the middle, and we need to treat them differently from young children or more mature adolescents. And we look to our professional organizations and these other organizations to define what is best practice among middle-level educators. So every decision that we make, every thing that we do, every program that we cultivate is aligned with these guiding principles. And the first one on this list, This We Believe, published by the Association for Middle-Level Educators, was just revised this year. They just released it, and they identified some essential attributes for middle-level education. And we're going to use those attributes to guide our presentation this evening. Just a little background on AMLE's policy statement or guiding principles, This We Believe. They identify these essential elements that we'll be talking about, essential attributes that we'll be talking about this evening. And then, of course, they also identify characteristics. What does it look like when a middle school is embracing those essential attributes? And those are the characteristics on the right-hand side of this graphic. We're going to focus on those essential attributes, and again, those will be a thread that's stitched through the remainder of this presentation, because those are the threads that are stitched through all of the work that we do in middle school. So the first one is being responsive. And go ahead.
Okay. So when we talk about responsive, using the distinctive nature and identities of our young adolescents as the foundation in which all of our decisions are made, of course. So if you go to this first slide here, and again, you're probably going to see about 100 pictures. Maybe we'll talk about 50 of them. But at the end, please ask questions about anything that you see if you'd like to learn more about. So if you take a look at the transitions in the left-hand side, I think every one of our schools talked about what this new school was going to look like at the beginning of the year. And as we change from quarter to quarter to quarter, we have new classes, and the transitions are a really big part of middle school education. We're doing a lot of work right now thinking about what is the best way to transition our 4th graders to our 5th graders here at the middle school. So doing a lot of those tours, that nurturing, building those relationships, starting those pods with that, we care about you. We're going to be together in this little family for the entire year is really, really important and set the tone for a lot of our conversations. Also highlighted in here in the lower right-hand corner, get up and move. John Medina, neuroscientist, tells us that you have 10 minutes of attention, right, until you crash. So every 10 minutes you've got to transition, you've got to get up and move, you've got to change the emotional, hook that's happening within the classroom. So utilizing a lot more motion this year, knowing that our kids were going to do a lot more sitting than previously done. So that's been a thread throughout. Again, not just being responsive to the situation, but being responsive developmentally to who our adolescents are when they get to 7th graders and Bell. The second slide there has Mindful Mondays, which we started really last year, but this year we've made it more of a weekly thing that we have on our newscast every Monday morning. And the second 2 pictures are really growth and our kids being responsive. And that's really the goal as we lead, is to help kids take on these leadership roles and have them develop what is needed based upon what they know about their peers and whatnot. So last year you saw those kids presenting at a faculty meeting in January about some of the things that they were doing to support kids, to support these devices and all the personalized learning. This year, they've taken that to the next level, and the Cyber Squad, quote unquote, has basically serviced the entire building, students and teachers alike, to support all of the different challenges that we've had from a technology lens this year. And they've done that virtually, of course, and in person. So it's been really nice to kind of see that grow out of a completely student-led initiative that started in school.
The next attribute that they define is challenging. And they define it as cultivating high expectations and advanced learning. And when we talk about high expectations, we're talking less about outcomes, less about grades, less about scores, less about awards and numbers, and more about challenging yourself to grow and challenging yourself to do something that perhaps you might not have tried before, or that might be a little difficult for you. It seemed difficult for you. That's what we mean by challenging. And here are, 2 examples of work that we see every day. On the left, students, 5th grade students, talking about issues relating to globalism, surrounding globalism. And they're really insightful. That conversation had some really interesting elements to it, pushing kids to think about issues that perhaps they've never thought about before. And on the right, you see students working on modeling the Mars Perseverance landing. And the model was essentially a marble in a paper cup. And could you simulate that landing using some string, having the paper cup travel down, and at a particular point, releasing the marble and having it hit a target? Sounds simple, definitely is not simple. But it pushes kids to fail. It pushes them to rethink their approach. It pushes them to work cooperatively together. It pushes them to re-examine their approach to that iterative design process and to make their designs better. Even if they don't succeed in the design challenge, getting closer to it or getting more than one trial as a success is the goal. And David, can you show a little video, see how these kids are doing with it? So that might have been the 30th or 40th time they tried it, and you heard, from the mouths of babies, pure joy. It worked. That's what we mean by challenging. And we also have, speaking of that design process and design thinking, looking at standard bubble wands, the things that come with the bubble soap in pretty typical geometric shapes, and reimagining that, rethinking it. What are the possibilities? Can you describe it? Can you draw it? And then, can you take that drawing and that design and make it an object? And here they use the 3D printers to print their bubble wands. And finally, I know that you've heard a lot about math, 8th grade math, and the challenges associated with algebra, and that certainly is a challenging course. However, we are supporting students wherever they are. Students that perhaps might not have taken algebra in the past are now engaging in that course. And of course, they need that support, and we provide it to them. And most importantly, they're being challenged in a relatively low-risk environment. So they can make attempts. They can make multiple attempts and fail at some of those attempts, and then learn from those mistakes and grow. And of course, for students who want additional challenge, our STEAM teachers at both schools are offering monthly STEAM challenges, monthly math enrichment challenges that are available, again, to all students who wish to take advantage of.
Okay, so the third essential attribute that we're going to talk about is the empowering piece and facilitating environments in which students take responsibility for their own learning and contribute positively to the world around them. So not just learning, but having an impact with that learning. First up, this is a completely student-generated idea, from idea to implementation. impacting the whole school community, taking control of advisory and all the work that's going on across the school. A group of students at Bell basically took Earth Day and turned it into Earth Month and planned for the entire school. So again, making an impact, helping them take ownership of what they're doing, and not just stop there, but continue to kind of share across the entire school. Was that the whole month of April?
It was a week. Yeah, they designed a series of lessons that all students in school participate.
If you go to the next slide, those that had a chance to take a look at our CSF grant application saw that the morning announcements, the 1911 PA system was the thing, the piece of technology that really got all the news out. And, we all remember the PA system and how scratchy and how hard it is to kind of hear, but transitioning there and this year, back on March 19th last year, was the day we launched this new morning news, whatever you want to call it, we use StreamYard.com this year, but that has really grown into something that, is can't miss TV for a lot of our kids in the morning, the kids in school and the kids that are remote. And the grants, as things start to arrive from an equipment standpoint, these kids are chomping at the bit and totally ready to not just go from like on a screen and the back and the production there, but actually utilizing, cutting edge technologies, taking the trip that we took to ABC 2 years ago, and what we learned about the roles and the equipment, and actually doing that, starting in September, is really, really powerful. But the lifting up Westchester piece there, if you go back to the other slide, the 4 others part of this is, Zoya, who also just won an essay contest across 600 schools. She has a different recipe every week. She shares it. At the end, she signs off by saying, "Hey, make a donation to Lifting Up Westchester." It's not about us; it's about helping other people and whatnot. So, not only is she inspiring and empowering the rest of the school to do more cooking, but also to kind of give back to others. So, it's nice to kind of see that growth. And again, completely student-run. The teachers are there for guidance, but they don't need us. If we didn't show up, this would go on every single day. And the last slide, of course, there are more and more podcasters happening, across the middle school. Not just turning in papers and doing this and writing an essay or whatnot. Now another medium for assessing students is voice and content and editing and all those different parts. So having all of these pieces put together, setting the table for them, but then having them go out and cover the things that they want to do, whether it's broadcasting, whether it's asking people about, is The Outsiders truly a classic here in 2021, or is it something else? And not just interviewing kids, but teachers. So really that community building that's been, the kids have been powered themselves across the board.
And finally, the fourth attribute is equity. Providing socially just learning opportunities and environments for every student. And I know that you've heard a lot about our curriculum, specifically literature and facing history and social studies and the equity work that's done in those 2 areas. But there are opportunities everywhere. In Science 7, just recently, students were having a debate about cell lines. This particular HeLa cell line was harvested from a person without her knowledge and has been propagated since 1951 and is still used in research today. And until very recently, the family had no idea that they were her body cells. So talking about the ethical questions and implications surrounding that work is another entry point into conversations about equity. Same thing in music. Our music department did work for almost a month on Music with Purpose, Songs of Resistance and Hope. How is music used in the efforts towards social justice? How is it used in politics? How is it used to create change? So not just listening to music and learning about artists and learning about songs, but learning about impact. And cross-town collaboration. Seven Bridges and Bell read together out of my mind. In the top right corner, our assistant principals did read-alouds over the course of a month. And students and classes who wished to complete that novel did so. And again, we thought about what it's like to see life in a perspective that's not yours. And a lot of the conversation around that built empathy and built understanding. And finally, the work that our staff does is supports all of the work that they're doing in the classroom. Staff book talks, conversations at faculty meetings about equity, how to have courageous conversations in class, practicing the approaches and the skills necessary to feel comfortable enough to facilitate conversations with young adolescents about some pretty significant topics. So the work that we do as an administrative team is consistent with the work that we do with our staff, is consistent with the work that they do in the classrooms with our students. So all well articulated, all mutually supportive.
Just to chime in on that last slide, Joseph, you know, in my career, there's been lots of things that teachers have either, you know, fought administrators on or wanted to do or didn't want to do, but, you know, the equity work is not something that we need to ask people for their engagement. They are all about this. And I feel like, you know, the people on this stage really kind of set the table for that. But, you know, this has been something that our people would do this every day. You know, they would attend a webinar, they would be part of, you know, Chap Equity, the work that, you know, that Tony and Philip are leading. It's been really quite inspiring, you know, from my lens this year to see not just teachers attending PD sessions that they have to be at, but the ones that they don't have to be at, that they're using their own time, their own family time to kind of come together and really push themselves forward. So that's been just a real nice piece for our community this year, and in a year where we need to kind of continue to really build into each other. But it's been a really nice thread as that developed, and for only 1 year into this work here, it's really impressive. All right, so we're on, I think this is slide 32. Yeah, so the last piece here, engaging, fostering a learning environment or atmosphere that's relevant, participatory, and motivating for all learners. And you know, I think as we have more and more remote learners that are now in-person learners, I think we're under 60 now. You know, at 7 Bridges, I think, Bell, you're under 50 or whatnot. There's more and more kids back. So when you talk to kids, they're a lot more engaged than they were sitting in the room, in their desk, you know, actually being around the school, being able to be a part of some of these particular things. You know, we had to use the gyms for lunch and for lots of other things, so the kids were, you know, having PE class in the hallways. So 2 bowling alleys down the main hallways of 7 Bridges was like a thing, and it worked well, quite well out there. For those of you that cruised through it, you know, bowl a frame or two. But you know, the gym teachers, like all the other educators here, you know, have completely innovated outside the box this year because they had to. But I also think, you know, in a lot of ways, not just technology, but just the way we think and what's possible. This pandemic year has kind of advanced us, you know, in ways that we'll see, you know, coming into the fold next year. Like, wait a minute, where'd that come from? You know, we started it this year. So in that picture on the far right, you see kids exploring a cow heart, so to speak. And in the All About Me in the upper left-hand corner, kids were asked to reflect their identities through song. So again, without being able to do some of the performing pieces this year in music, they've also been creative in different ways to allow kids to, again, take their interests, not just something that's important for us to teach and this and that. They've listened to kids, talk about their interests, and build the curriculum around that and what they're doing in their classrooms. I think there's a circus game happening in one of those in the end of the PE as well. So engaging kids, not just on anything, but about what they are into, what they are doing. What have you been doing during the pandemic? The next slide, if you look, has a QR code. That's a live QR code, so if you hold your phone up there and zoom in, I think you should be able to get it from across the stage, or if you're at home. You will see a 5th grader's artistic representation of something of their hobby or their interest come to life through code. So you can see some of the work happen in the tweet in the lower right-hand corner, putting that together. But now they're on display, and if you walk through 7 Bridges, you have QR codes in just about every hallway now. Josh found us an app on the Windows Surface devices that now we can use QR codes. So this is the first year we can do more and more of those things. So they're everywhere now. Literacy, STEAM, math, science, it's pretty much everywhere. Yeah, I think that's something that's engaging. So we hit a lot. We talked really fast. We were told to keep it under a certain amount of time. But, we will answer as many questions as you
Our
like.
10-minute maximum? We should get up and move now, according to your presentation.
I can't hear you. What?
I think he said we need to get up and move around because there's a 10-minute.
More than 10 minutes, for sure. Did we make it?
Would the board have any questions for Joe Joseph? Or comments?
I think your timing was perfect. We're all New Yorkers. We all talk fast and listen fast. Well, you're not a New Yorker, Joe, but Joseph is. So, this is very comprehensive. It's nice to see that we're bringing things like QR codes and STEM and engineering and math and science into the entire school building and not just in the classroom. I like the fact that we're engaging all levels of middle school, because it's interesting. 5th grade, the kids come in early. They're basically 4th graders, and they leave. They're pretty much in high school. So it's a pretty big range. You have to really work to engage them all, right? Because they each have different needs. The only thing I miss is not being able to come into the school and have a learning walk, because that's what we get to see and what it's working for. So hopefully next year we'll be able to take these masks off, or whatever, we'll be able to take a learning walk and actually see what you're doing in person. But thank you for a great update.
Thank you.
Hey, I do have one question. Thank you. This was great and comprehensive, and it's really nice to have a window into what school has been like this year for the kids. The one question I have is, you talked a lot about responding to the kids' needs, and we know that you guys are doing that on a daily basis. But obviously, the pods have been challenging at both the elementary and middle school from a social perspective for the kids, but middle school is fraught socially in the best of times. And so I'm curious, as you guys both look ahead to next year, when hopefully we're not in a pod situation, do you have thoughts on sort of reintroducing middle schoolers to normal socialization, especially because, I mean, we all know that different families within the district have handled socializing differently over the course of the last year, and kids are going to be in very different places sort of relative to that.
Yeah. I think, a lot of what we've talked about with our counselors, our social workers, and psychologists was we really do need a reboot, at the beginning of the year. They didn't really have a beginning of the year, everybody in person this year. Last year, we really left early. So there's a lot of ground there, from the point of like resending out our handbook, and refreshing there. There's been a lot of in and out, and how do we know that people are on the same page and whatnot in terms of developmental. So, feedback from parents has been really important. A lot of student voice feedback. Seeing certain kids on, weekly agendas and making sure that we're kind of knowing what the background is for them, understanding that there are certain kids home for really strong medical reasons, and that's okay. But there are also others home that maybe it's more of a convenience right now, it's okay, but we're also really trying to get those kids back, because we don't want them to wait until September to transition if they can transition now. So when we get back in September, we're hitting the ground running and whatnot. But, in terms of your question, responding to their needs, we really, especially the current 5th graders who just started middle school, what a crazy year that was for the first year of middle school. We really, they deserve to kind of start fresh in terms of what this looks like. These are all your opportunities. This is where your independence and your autonomy is versus where you left 4th grade. So we, at least on my lens, I feel like we need to do a really thorough job of that those first couple of weeks in September next year. Just not take for granted that they have their first year of middle school, because it was really not exactly the way it would be with the pods. But I think across the country, everybody needs a break from each other every once in a while, right? I think it's very normal. But I think when I talk to parents, when I talk to kids, they're happy that they have a place, a safe place. Have there been social issues, this and that? Of course, and there's going to be. That's middle school. We help them, with the scaffolding there, but there's a safe space, and that's really important. they will remember this group of kids that they were with for forever. You know, and even if they're not in the same classes walking around, really, that kid was in my pod. That kid was, they're going to know people, and I think that's really important.
I would just add that, right, being developmentally responsive means that we need to meet kids where they are, and recognizing that the effects of this pandemic are going to last a lot longer than wearing masks and social distancing and sanitizing your hands. So leveraging our clinical staff to give the students who need it the attention that they need. That has already started and is ongoing, throughout this year, but I think will be more acute as we return to normal, because transitions are difficult under the best of circumstances for young adolescents. And this is yet another transition, like Joe explained. Just because you came to Bell or Seven Bridges in 5th grade, when you come back in 6th grade, it's not going to be the same middle school that you experienced this year. And some students, particularly those who really enjoy their pods and have formed really close connections, might need support transitioning out of pods. Others who had an experience more aligned to what you were describing are going to need support transitioning back to the regular way of doing business. So definitely we've been having these conversations, as Joe said, not just among our clinical staff and among Chappaqua staff, but among middle-level leaders that we know and middle-level educators that we know through our networks. Everybody's talking about the need to support students socially, emotionally, and academically next year.
Thank you.
Any questions? I don't have questions. I just want to thank you, and I also just really appreciate what we can see as the camaraderie between the two of you and how closely you work together. And I can't imagine your transition as you, Joseph, to start here and move up here during a pandemic. So I hope it is very different for you next year. But we appreciate it. We hope that you get some more rest, as well as the rest of the faculty and staff that's been working around the clock this year, really to make it as the most meaningful experience it can be for our children under very challenging circumstances. And it seems like you're still continuing to really just hit everything and make it accessible to everyone. And I thank you for the tremendous work. It's apparent, so thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say that I think that your focus on these attributes are so important. I was reminded of a program that we had. I started off the meeting by talking about 2007, but the PTA at that point brought in a speaker regarding stress in middle school and high school, and about what really triggers stress levels in communities like ours. And this was work done by a doctor named Sonia Luthar, who works out of Columbia University. And she studied high-performing school districts, such as ours, and found that the levels of stress leading to mental health issues and substance abuse were higher in high-performing school districts than in school districts that were, had higher needs and higher poverty levels. And the stress was because of pressures to get high grades, to get into certain schools, and to get what is quote unquote a good job. So these were risk factors for mental health and substance abuse. And so I don't want to go off into deep tangents here, but I think that the focus on attributes, on being responsive, on empowerment, equity, being engaging, are so important to address these risk factors. You said something really important when you talked about the area of challenging. You said it's not about getting high grades, it's about challenging yourself to grow, which, I think made that connection in my mind. And I think that the more we can help students find inner strength and resilience, the more we can address those risk factors, especially for middle school, which is such a sensitive period in terms of self-esteem and making that transition from a child to, more towards adulthood. So I'm really glad that this focus on attributes rather than, the traditional focus is happening here in such depth. So thank you so much. to this.
Thank you.
Holly, did you have anything you wanted to say before?
No, I mean, I've got 2 middle schoolers, so we've been looking at, my kids are actually having really great years, so says something about what you guys are doing in those buildings, and I'm appreciative.
So I'd like to share 2 things that we did broke at the beginning of the year. First, we got open, and that for everyone to come every day, that was extraordinarily difficult at the middle school. It was the most difficult task we had during the summer, and to figure out how to open up the middle school every day for kids. So I just want to acknowledge the work that Joe and Joseph and Adam did, and Tony, to make that happen for our kids. I think it was critical for the social emotional well-being of our students. The second decision that I think was really strong that was made by Joe and Joseph was to form these pod teams with like the teacher being the captain of that group. That, I think, in so many different ways was the support that our kids was missing in March when we closed. And I think we were really intentional in making sure that we built little communities within the middle school for kids so they all stayed connected no matter what happened during the school year, which we couldn't predict at the time. And so what I think happened as a result of that structure is that our kids developed support groups with each other, with a teacher leading that throughout the course of the pandemic. And I think it meant the difference for a lot of students as to whether or not they would be able to thrive in this model or just survive in this model. And so I think that decision was one of the best decisions that we made as we plan forward throughout this district K-12. So I just want to thank Joe and Joseph for having that leadership foresight to understand that at the middle level, that was absolutely necessary. There were a lot of conversations, a lot of late nights, trying to figure out how we were going to restructure middle school in a way that made sense for kids. And I think, as stressful as that was, I think it was worth it. Because come October, there are very few middle schools that were able to open up every day for students, but we were able to do that. So I want to thank you for that. And thank you for your presentation tonight, and tomorrow's a new day, so thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
A big thanks to our assistant principals. You know, they did a lot of the heavy lifting alongside us, and they're not here tonight. I know they're watching and whatnot, but we're very blessed to have the support that we have around us. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. You guys are going to head out, and then I'd like to, we're going to transition now to our budget presentation. So our director of our library is here, Andy Farber, so you're going to come up, and we're going to pull up your presentation. And this is the opportunity where many of our community members may not realize this, but we actually own the library. And then, so the library team at our library facility in town, they use our space, and part of our budget process is that they present their budget to the community, and they're involved in our budget vote. And so usually we have Pam Thornton here, but we've transitioned to a new library director. So this is Andrew's first time with us. So I'd like to introduce Andrew to the Board of Education and to the community through our board meeting. And we're really happy to have him here tonight. And David is going to pull up his presentation.
Welcome, Andrew. I just want to say welcome. I know you've been here for a while, and we met. And you may not know behind the mask, but we did meet. We did a tour of the library.
Yes.
So, but just an official welcome to our community, and the library is a very treasured part of our community. So we're happy to have you take the helm of the library.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome. I've been here now about 6 months, so this budget was one of the first things I started working on when I started here. We have tried to keep our budget very fiscally responsible.
David, can you move the slide for Andrew?
It doesn't seem to be working. There we go. Thank you. As you'll see, we are asking for a very modest increase. Our budget last year was a total of $3,314,162. This year we're asking for $3,353,239. That is an increase of $50,077, which works out to approximately $3.10 per resident in our district. The majority of the increase comes in just a few lines. Our salaries are increasing by a small amount. As I'm sure with most municipalities and school districts, our benefits line is increasing as well. Our material line, we are asking for a slight increase in both electronic resources and our books, and a slight decrease in our recordings. We are about to reopen the new children's room, which was part of an expansion. And due to some water damage, we have a lot of material that needs replacing. During the pandemic, we have seen a tremendous increase in demand for our electronic resources. We've striven to provide that to our community, so we're asking for a slight increase for our electronic materials. And over time, we have seen a decrease in the usage of CDs and DVDs with the increase in streaming technology. And so we are reducing that line accordingly. You could do the next slide, please. Thank you. Overall, we were actually able to decrease our operating expenses by a small amount. I was able to consolidate some services, which led to a reduction in our costs. For the vast majority of the savings, that is coming from professional fees and by combining our grounds maintenance and our snow removal. If you could go to the next slide, please. It's working. Still not working. Thank you. As you'll see in our tax cap worksheet, our available tax cap this year was $95,374. So we are asking for significantly less than our allowable tax cap increase. Again, we are only asking for a $50,077 budget increase overall. If you could go to the next slide, thank you. Overall, our tax levy for Newcastle is $3,017,254. That is 90.6% of the tax levy. Mount Pleasant is $313,885. That represents 9.4% of the tax levy. The percent increase per thousand for Newcastle is 0.05, and for Mount Pleasant is 1.72. During this time, we have been able to provide services to our patrons through curbside pickup and limited browsing. Going forward, we are excited to announce that we will be reopening the library for much more hours and continuing to provide the services our patrons have come to expect. Are there any questions from the board?
That was very clear. I just want to say that I want to let everyone know this is not, even though the format looks like this, but this isn't necessarily a presentation to the board. This is a hearing for the community. And I just want to know, even though it's not listed on our agenda, whether we should have a separate public comment for the library. I recall doing that, but it's not. It doesn't have to be on the agenda. We can do that because this is. We've always traditionally used the school board meeting for this presentation, but it's not like one of our school presentations. It really is for the community. We can certainly ask questions.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Staffing, is that going up or down? Stay the same?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
I'm sorry. Staffing, is that going up, going down, or stay the same?
Has staffing changed?
No, our staffing is maintaining the same level.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry.
No, I apologize. It's a little difficult to hear over the dance.
I'm just curious how active has the library remained active? have people taken advantage of, the curbside pickup, drop off, et cetera? Have you seen increase, decrease activity? Like, where has it landed? I'm just curious.
So we've stayed very busy overall. I've got the numbers right here, actually. Curbside, we had over 7,000 patrons utilize our curbside pickup during the pandemic. Our programming has stayed incredibly popular. We have transitioned to online programming. We do that on Zoom, so patrons are able to both watch the program live and view the recordings online. As an example, one of our programs recently was the Birds of Ecuador. We had the Vice Minister of Tourism for Ecuador actually attend the program.
Oh, wow.
We had well over 100 attendees live for the program, along with patrons who have viewed that. We have pivoted to book bundles where a patron can call us and say that they are interested in a topic or a group of different books, and our librarians will select from our collection appropriate titles and provide that to families. That has proven very, very popular with the children's department. We have provided grab-and-go crafts so that parents could come and pick up kits that they could then do programs along with us in a virtual manner with the actual materials. And the library system is using an app called Kapira. We use that for curbside. Of the libraries that are currently using that software, we are the most used for curbside pickup.
What is it called again? I couldn't hear.
Kapira.
Okay.
So we have proven, we've continued to stay very, very busy.
That's great.
And curbside pickup is actually much harder on the staff. It's more labor intensive. So even though we had less patrons coming into the building or able to utilize our services, the staff stayed very busy during this whole time. And now that we're able to reopen, we're expecting to see a lot more of our familiar faces come back. And once that children's room reopens, I'm sure we'll see even more usage of the library.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So at this point, I'd like to open it up to any public comments regarding the library budget and hearing. And we will stick to our usual protocol for public comment. If you wish to come up, please identify yourself, and we'll keep the comments to 3 minutes. Would anyone like to come up? Okay. Seeing that there are no public comments on the library feature presentation, Andrew, is there anything that you'd like to add?
No, so we are very grateful for the opportunity to come here tonight and present to the public and to the school. I would like to thank you for all of your support. We're excited that the bond that the school initiated that allowed us to expand our children's room provided us that opportunity, and that we are hopefully soon opening that children's room, which we couldn't have done without you. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
All right.
Have a great evening.
All right, have a good evening. Okay, so now John and I will transition over to the district budget hearing. So, John, if you can come back up, and then David, if you could pull up our presentation, that would be great. All right. This will be John's last budget presentation for the district. So let's make it a good one, John. Okay, so this is the night where we do our budget hearing, which is required by New York State law, where we present the budget to the community one more time before we have our budget vote. And there's some required aspects of this presentation that we need to share under regulation. This is a condensed version of all of our presentations, which are posted online. And then after this process is concluded, we will be sending out our budget newsletter to the community. All right, so just as a reminder, our budget increase is approximately $2.2 million, or 1.73%. And our budget is grounded in our 2 Board of Education strategic questions, making sure that we are expanding our program to meet the needs of our students, as well as ensuring that we are fiscally responsible in doing so. And then, of course, we have our profile of a graduate, where we have our skills and attributes that we feel are most
important to be cultivating over our students' experience here in this district. And then our budget is aligned to the 6 target areas in our strategic plan. The major drivers of our budgeting process are 4 major areas. It's our class size primarily, because that impacts our staffing, our contractual obligations, our infrastructure, and ensuring that we provide the appropriate instructional and extracurricular program for our students. And then, of course, we have our operating standards, where we are ensuring that we're maintaining our tradition of excellence, that we have a safe and supportive environment for our students, that we are continually improving our instructional program, that we're innovatively using our space, our time, and our technology. We're maximizing efficiencies. We're ensuring that our evaluation system of our professionals are strong, that we're optimizing our communication structures, that we are reducing our overtime expenses, that our offices are functioning efficiently, that we are making sure that our facilities are well maintained, that we provide our students with cross-disciplinary experiences, and that we keep teaming at the middle level, that our courses are robust and deep in nature, and that we maintain our contractual size ratios in terms of our sectionings, and finally that our professional learning meets the needs of our staff, and that is ongoing. And then finally, in terms of planning for this year, we know, based on what we experienced through COVID, and then where we are right now in terms of guidance documentation released by the state, that we anticipate operating under our normal schedule next year, and that our staff will be on site, and that we won't need to operate a half-day schedule, really, where we'll have this midday bus run, and that we won't need as much staff to support our students, because we won't have to pod at the elementary and middle level. But we also know that we're going to need to upgrade continuing to make sure we have that specialized cleaning for our air filtration units, and that we're thinking about how we're going to support lunch at the middle and high school level. We may need to add some additional structures to do that in a way that we feel is safe for our kids to reduce exposure. Ooh. Okay, so we have things that we already know. We've settled most of our contracts that were outstanding. We only have one left, but hopefully we'll have something for your consideration at our next meeting. And then these are all the areas that we already know our budget figures for moving into next year. We also have some areas that are continuing to be pending, and these will be pending throughout the course of the next two months, because most of this is driven by our special education placements and our transportation costs related to that. And we're still in our annual review process, so that is a natural area that wouldn't be at conclusion at this part of the school year. While we do have a good understanding of our COVID guidance, we anticipate there could be some changes over the summer, so we need to be thinking about that. We don't have our assessed tax valuation, but we wouldn't have that at this point during the year. And then we have one contract that's outstanding, and hopefully we'll have a resolution. This will be resolved, and I'll have something for you at our next meeting. Okay, so now I'm going to transition over to John.
Yes, so here are the presentation of 9 budgets here. And you can see the blue part is the budget increase, and the orange is the tax levy increase. So all these 9 budgets, that they come under the tax cap. So we never had to go over the tax cap and ask for an override. And go to the next slide. And here are the budget increases, and you can see the average. They are, in my mind, very reasonable. For the budget increase, we have 1.66%, and then the tax levy increase is average 1.24%. And at this point, we don't have the average tax rate increase right now, because right now we don't have the like what Christine said earlier, we don't have the assessed value yet. So that will come in August, and at the tax warrant approval time, that's the time we have the changes. So now we go to the expenditures and revenues. And here are the 10 large categories. As you can see, salaries and employee benefits always represent the largest increases, and also the largest amount. They average about 73 to 75%, and that is the norm for all the school systems. And then here it represents the percentage of the budget. So they are comparable. We don't have any major changes. And the revenues. And so obviously the largest revenue source for the school district, I think we all know, is from property taxes. And we are asking for 2.03% tax levy increase. And that is our tax cap. And so we are in compliance. And this year we also see an increase in the state aid, even though we didn't get the stimulus money, but we still see a slight increase in the state aid. And this is also to just look at the overall percentage, and it hasn't changed that much because it's 87.1% for this year, and next year is 87.3%. This is the tax levy. And come to the tax analysis. Well, because we're into taxing entities, that's why we have to go through the equalization calculations. And I think Andrew went through this earlier with the library calculation. So we always have to separate out. We have to apportion the total tax levy into the two towns and then calculate the percentage. And so at this point, the number that you see down there is the estimated increases. And so we will not know the final increase until, like I said earlier, the tax warrant time is in August. And this is required, and we have to provide the property tax report card. And also, this is also in our budget book. So it's very public. Everything is on our website. And we have a proposition. And this is the item that we have been talking for several years now, because the emergency actually happened a couple years ago. It's right outside this building. We had a breakage with a pipe. And so that was temporarily stopped. And so we need to have a long-term fix. So we talked to the facilities committee, and we thought that this is the time to do it. And the design was redone because originally the pipe runs from the main building all the way to the gym, and the breakage is in the middle of the road. So we thought that the easiest way and also the cheapest way actually is create a separate boiler room at the gym. So this is the proposal, and it has the approval of the SED already. And we're going out to bid on May 14th. And right now the estimated cost is $650,000. So the money is coming from the reserve fund. So the important thing here to know is that the reserve fund is set aside already for capital projects. And so we are right now asking for the voters to approve for us to transfer the money out of the reserve fund and put it into the capital fund, so we can do this project. And there's no tax impact at all. No tax increase, no tax levy changes.
I just wanted to share the sections and the enrollment projections moving forward. So I just want to share with the board and remind the community that the thresholds for classes are agreed upon between the CCT and approved by the administration, and the administration, and then approved by the Board of Education. And they're different depending on what grade our students are in. But as you can see in our sections for next year, we're not at the threshold in any of our elementary classes. And this is usually what is most important to our community and where people get really animated around the budget. So we're in a good place in terms of what our class sizes look like at the elementary level. The middle school, this starts to look a little bit different because students are teams, but again, we're underneath our thresholds at all grade levels, and then we have to present this in a different way, really, but we adhere to our class thresholds at Greeley, but it's more difficult to parse out what this looks like because classes are unique at the high school level for kids. And then we just wanted to talk a little bit what would happen if the budget wasn't passed. So John, do you just want to explain the contingency process and then how much we would have to cut from this current budget if the budget wasn't approved by the voters?
Absolutely. The contingency budget is an important factor to consider, but we're very fortunate that during the 14 years I've been here, we have never had to go to the contingency budget. But I think it's important because it's a legal maneuver. We have to let the voters know that if the budget is voted down, what are the options? So with the contingency budget is that if the voters disapprove the budget, then the next chance to have a revote is June 15th, which is the third Tuesday. Well, obviously, there are choices. When the budget is voted down, the board at that time can have go directly to the contingency budget. But later on, you will see, the contingency budget requires a reduction of over $2 million. And when you look at the whole budget, 75% is from employees' salaries and benefits. So that's probably the largest piece that we had to reduce. And that is what the contingency budget will call for. And here is the number, is that the reduction is 2.2 million.
Okay, so in summary, our proposed budget is $130 million, $460,188, or a 1.73% increase, and we have one proposition on the ballot for voter consideration, and it's to fix that steam leak by creating a boiler room at Greeley for $650,000, but that would not impact the tax levy because we have the money, we just need to move it and have voter approval to spend it. And so then our highlights of our budget is we feel we're responding to the strategic questions of the board, and we've aligned our budget with the strategic coherence plan. We're meeting our operating standards. We're supporting physical, social, and emotional safety. We provided funds for equity and diversity, professional development, and leadership. We've increased leadership capacity for our technology systems and district communications. We're maintaining a robust professional learning program, especially now that we have to consider how to support students in post-pandemic conditions. We adjusted our personnel based on our enrollment, and we're within the tax cap to ensure that the budget is sustainable and that our families receive their tax rebate. And then this is a required budget notice that we send out, so community members are aware of the budget process and what our proposal is. This is just the second page of that. And then I would encourage the community, if they have questions about their status or they'd like to vote, they don't want to come in person to vote, they can certainly contact Lisa, and this will all be posted on the website. We also have a drop box in front of the district office for families if they want to choose to vote in the same manner that they did last year. And then there's some language about who can vote. And but again, I just encourage anyone, if they have questions, just to contact Lisa. She's doing an excellent job preparing for this election, and I know she's really excited to be able to facilitate that for the district again this year. So let me thank you in advance, Lisa. And then let me go back. Just one more slide, and this has some more information about how to receive an application for an absentee ballot, and then some deadlines that need to take place in regard to registering to vote. And then finally, I would just share that we are at the end of our budget calendar, and the next stop is the budget vote on the 18th, and that will take place at Horace Greeley High School and start at 7 a.m. and end at 9 p.m. And then, again, we can continue to take budget comments if you'd like to share them with us. And this is our contact information, our email addresses, and our phone numbers. So, thank you.
Christine, since this is my last budget
Yes,
presentation,
John.
can I just say something?
Sure.
I think one thing is important is that when you look at all the numbers and what do they really mean? For me, at the end of the day, is really, it was great that, we leading into the budget and also into the budget presentations. We heard the presentation by the elementary school, the high school, and today by the middle school. And to me, that's the purpose of the budget, right? To support the education and to support all the teachers, all the staff, and really just make sure. And I do love the word that they use. You know, all the students can thrive in this environment, even though we're going through a very difficult time. And during the last 14 years, again, I want to say, you know, very grateful. I remember the first year when I was here, Vicki was the PTA president. They went all out and to support the budget. And after that, I remember Holly was on the executive committee. The PTA executive committee always endorsed the budget. And that is tremendous because, you know, we need a community to support this budget. And also the CCT always come out and support the budget. So we know we have very good turnout and you know, large percentage of passage. And so I think, you know, there's really a great community, and you know, really they value education, and you know, I'm very grateful.
Thank you so much for that, John. It really brings it back to what's important and why we're all here doing the work that we do. And it's really about the students and the staff that supports education, the faculty and all of the staff. So we're very appreciative of all the work that's gone into this budget. This budget hearing is at an odd time because of the way the state has structured it. So just for anyone wondering, the board has already adopted the budget. So, you know, the timing by the state of when this has to be done is very awkward. So,
I want to see if anyone in the community has any comments.
Right, so that was the next step, is to, you know, have, you know, second public comment period where people can comment on the budget, and then we'll have our regular public comment period. So if anyone would like to come up to the microphone at this time, just to comment on the budget, the school district budget, please feel free to come up to the microphone and identify yourself, and I'll take 3 minutes to make your comment. Okay, so seeing that there are no public comments, we will move along. But, you know, does the board have anything in addition?
Yeah, John, thank you very much. I think it's a thoughtful budget. John, thank you very much. I think it's a very thoughtful budget. I know we've never gone up to the tax cap before. We have unusual circumstances this year. I think the budget supports what you said. It supports our students, our teachers, our staff, and our community as a whole, because that's what we're here. So thank you for what you've done with this administration and all the building administration for contributing to this work.
Thank you, Warren. Anyone, if there's no other comments, we can move to the superintendent's report. So, thank you, John, and thank you, Kathy, for being here today. We appreciate you out there in the audience. And so we'll move forward with our budget vote. So thank you. Okay, good. Okay, let me just,
Anything else from the superintendent?
yeah, we have to talk about some agenda items. I want to provide some updates to the community about planning forward for the end of the school year. So let me just wait for David to pull up the. All right, so this is the last time you're going to see this slide look out this way. Let me just begin by saying that. So, so we're currently in the same model that we've been in since October, where we have 100% of the elementary and middle school in. Now, when we have our next meeting, I'm going to talk this a little bit later here about the high school, because we are going to be able to move towards bringing 100% of the students in for the full day. But we're currently at 50-50, with some kids attending for the full day, but we're going to begin to transition. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And then you'll notice that our remote numbers have gone down significantly, and I do want to acknowledge that our middle and elementary principals have been doing a lot of work with our families to get our kids back in for the end of the school year. So thank you, families, for sending your students back in and trusting us. And we hope more kids will begin to come in as we move towards the conclusion of this school year. And then you'll notice we've had a significant number of students start to attend really on a regular basis. So that's a good work on behalf of the administration to support kids to get them back into the building. All right, Tony, can you please give a staffing update?
Okay, sorry, it usually pops and scares me. So the last time we talked, we had approximately 20, well, we had exactly 21 staff members who were working remotely. So we've been welcoming teachers back over the last several weeks as people have gotten vaccinated, have been dealing with their underlying health issues. So we went from 25 to 21. Now we have 17 staff members who are out working remotely. So some of those will have to remain out due to medical issues that impact their ability to be vaccinated. And so they're working through that, but we are anticipating at least 4 other teachers who will be returning in the next couple of weeks, actually. And then we do have ongoing medical leaves. Those are ones that have been vetted by the district physician, and the majority of those are through the remainder of the year, but we're hoping to welcome most of those folks back in September. So that's where we stand. So we are welcoming more and more teachers back every week, which is exciting.
Thank you, Tony. All right, so I just want to provide our quarantine update. So if you've been paying attention to my weekly newsletters, we really haven't had any cases. So we're in really good shape with the number of students who are coming into school every day, and we haven't had cases reported to us that have required quarantine. So our numbers are really low. So we're really pleased about that. And I thought it would be important for at this point for Adam to provide an update on the New York State assessments and how many kids have been coming in to take them. And I also want to talk, after Adam explains just a little bit about some concerns that we had to share out with the community about the decisions that were made by the state education department around how these assessments were constructed. So let's just start by talking about the administration process and how many kids were taking the test versus how many kids chose not to take the test given the conditions that we currently are experiencing within the pandemic. So, Adam?
Thank you. So, as you know, New York State requires that we test all students in grades 3 through 8 in ELA and mathematics. And the ELA test was just a few weeks ago, and mathematics was given today. So this chart, on the left side, you'll see the initials for our schools, DG, obviously, Douglas, Grafflin, and you can see them go down. And the number next to the initials is the grade level, so it starts all the way up on the top left with DG3, that's grade 3 and Grafflin. And then as you move across the chart, you'll see the orange columns are the number of refusals that we had per school per grade. So you can scan down that orange column. We averaged less than 4% for that refusal rate. Those are the parents who would receive letters from refusing their child from the test. So you can see those numbers are extremely low. In the orange column for both ELA and for math. Most of the grades were a single digit, and some just barely reached into the double digits. We also included the absentees there in the yellow. For the math, we will be able to give some make-up assessments for students that were absent today. And then you can see that we also offered for our fully remote students. Fully remote students, New York State said that those students will be exempt from the assessment. However, we did want to provide an opportunity for parents that had students that were remote to come in on Wednesday afternoon to take the assessment. So that green column is a count of students who came in the afternoon of Wednesday. Wednesday, as you know, is a half day for us. So we don't have students in the afternoon. So we created an environment for remote students. Parents dropped their students off and we tested them this afternoon. So that green column you can just see are basically fully remote kids that came in just for the test. We were prohibited from providing the test to remote students in some remote proctoring format. We weren't allowed to do that, so those students came into school. So those are the numbers as you can see them, and we appreciate that our families, had their students take the assessment. And normally, we would use that assessment data to determine the quality of our programs and identify students that might need some extra support. We try to have a measured approach to using those results, but they do indicate, a certain level of performance and inform our curriculum to a certain extent. However, this year has become a bit challenging, as I think Dr. Ackerman will describe.
Right. So I did want to describe to you what happened, which we were taken aback by in the ELA administration specifically. So the New York State Education Department, they released sample test questions for us to help prepare our kids to understand the format of the test in advance of taking it. And the decision was made this year to use the released some of the passages that they had released in advance for us to practice on as a part of the actual assessments that we gave our students in this exam period. And what took place was that in some classes, even the day before, students practiced on some of the passages that they were administered with their teacher, and others didn't. And so I expressed my deep concern about that decision to the assessment department at the New York State Education Office, and their response was that they felt the tests were valid. And so when I challenged the validity of that, because I just don't understand the thought process behind how they could feel some students having access to certain passages that they administered on this assessment and others did not, was a valid measure of assessment against the standards. That's one piece of it. The second piece of it is how, even if all of our students had access to the same reading material and the passages, how could you use that to evaluate a student's progress against the standards if they had that in advance of the test? I mean, that just seems like administration 101. Their response was that they would send out a clarification memo to the field, which never came. So, I'm really disappointed that the decision was made by the department to use the assessments in this way, particularly pulling from practice assessments that they had given to us to prepare our kids for the test. I feel like I've expressed on behalf of the district our deep concern with that practice, and I did want to share that with the board. And Adam, rightfully so, sent a message out to our parents immediately following the ELA because kids knew what had happened, and it put us in a really awkward position with our kids, as if we were doing something unethical. And so really didn't receive any satisfactory answer from the state ed department in any shape or form about the position that they put us in. And, perhaps they'll provide some clarification in the future, but I'm not optimistic. And, you have to really question. I don't do this often, but I have to really question their judgment in this particular circumstance. And their silence, I think, speaks volumes about the decision that they made. So it's really unfortunate, but I did want to express that. But we will continue to administer the assessments because we're required to do so. But luckily, we have other measures that we can use to help guide our practices with our kids, mainly our MAPS assessment. So we're in a good position to plan forward in spite of this, I think, really unfortunate decision that the leadership of the state education department made.
Kristen, I have a question about that. We're not really sure whether it was a decision or perhaps could it have been a mistake.
I didn't get the impression that it was a mistake made by the state ed department, and I think they replicated that practice with other assessments that we were required to administer.
And so I guess where I'm headed is we might perhaps see more of this in the future. I mean, that is absolutely no assurance.
I think that's probably an accurate assumption. I have to believe that their silence, to me, would usually when there's an error, you communicate that out, and usually when things are intentional, you don't.
Do you think they may have thought that they would get the waivers and then they didn't get them, and then there were no tests? I mean,
that could be so, but I don't want to. Their silence is their silence.
Yeah.
So.
Did this happen in the math assessments as well as ELA? Adam, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. My understanding is that we got some feedback from students and faculty that they've seen quite a few of those questions before. What the state does is they release test questions from previous years. So once the secure test is given, they'll release components, usually about half or 2/3 of the tests, and then teachers, if they're available to the public, they're posted on the state website, and teachers use them as practice. They actually took them down after the test window began, so that they were up when the window started, and then they pulled them down off of the website, so they weren't available anymore. But I understand that with the math assessment today, that students and teachers had seen many of those questions and had practiced many of those questions.
Yeah, listen, it's really It's really unfortunate. And it's really unfortunate that there's been no response from the state ed department, formal response over why this decision was made, so that we could share that with our faculty and with the larger community. So all we have right now are assumptions. And so we're going to continue to move forward here, and I want to thank Adam and his team for administering the assessments in the middle of a pandemic, and I think we did a really good job, and for our parents for sending their kids in, and for our kids engaging in them. So, okay, we have a donation on the agenda, so Al?
Yeah, if I could mention, for those of you that have elementary students, you've probably seen this case. This is a Logitech case. We actually bought quite a few of these cases when we first got our iPad deliveries at the elementary school several years ago. And now they're a few years old. They're kind of a previously early dated model. So this company was gracious enough to donate a bunch of them that we can use for parts and to replace some of our cases that don't work. They don't make this model anymore. So it's nice for us to have this donation so we can keep our cases consistent for the next couple of years. So you'll see that on 5.18.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about Greeley. So we had a meeting with our parents today, and Andrew met with his faculty yesterday. At our last meeting, I talked about how we were going to transition down to 3-foot distances between desks in our classrooms, which would enable us to get all of our students on site. But the Department of Health released guidance that said we couldn't do that if we were in a high risk of transmission, according to the CDC website. So what happened this week is we moved down to substantial risk. That doesn't sound great, but it does allow us to go down to 3 feet. And knowing that now we can move forward in this direction and that we haven't had any cases, we're pretty comfortable in moving in that direction for Greeley. So right now, this is what this week's schedule looks like. You're in one of two groups. You're either in the blue group or the orange group. And then we have some kids that come all day long and they're in their own group. But this is what it looks like this week. And next week, we're gonna look like this. We're gonna have orange in all day, and then we'll have blue in all day, so we can have a small group of kids used to eating lunch, and we can see how that works. And then the following week, we're going to have orange or blue in the morning and have lunch, and then we'll have all the kids in the afternoon, so we're not having lunch with everyone on site. So everyone's getting used to being on site without eating, because that's where exposure is. And then the next week we have everybody in. So this is the plan right now. We've told our parents we're going to be learning alongside our kids and how this works, and we may make some adjustments along the way, but I think we're in good shape. We didn't have a lot of questions today. I think Andrew did a good job in our first meeting to lay this out for people, and now we're in a place where we're going to move forward. So we're looking forward to getting everyone back in, because, I think it's really important we end the year in a way that we're going to start the year in September, so this is going to allow us to do that. And then I want to share with you that next week, on Tuesday at 6 o'clock, we're going to meet with our families, K-8, because we're going to talk about potentially moving down to 3 feet in the middle schools and the elementary schools. So we have a lot of work to do between now and that time. But I do want to share with you that at our next meeting, I might be coming to you saying that on May 27th, that's the day before everyone has Friday off for Memorial Day. I may be asking you to consider making that a remote morning for our kids, because if we're going to move down to 3 feet, K-8, we have a lot of logistical things that need to happen within the buildings. So that's going to take us a few days. So my thought would be, this is not for the high school because they're going to be in for a full day that day. My thought would be that on the 26th, in the morning, kids are in, and in the afternoon, teachers could be working in their rooms with the custodians to put them back into pre-pandemic conditions. And then on Thursday, in the morning, we would have remote instruction for elementary and middle, and then while the custodians could still work in moving the desks and preparing the rooms, because kids won't be on site, but the teachers will be in. And then in the afternoon, the teachers can finish their classes and then communicate out to parents what they look like. So then on Friday, the custodians can finish whatever's left because they're still working. That's a day off for teachers and students, but it's not a day off for 12-month staff. And then on the 1st, we'll be ready for everyone to come back and be in their regular classes. Now, we have a lot of work to do between now and then, But I do just want to preview for you that on the 19th, I'm going to talk more about whether or not we're going to move in this direction. And as a part of that movement, we may need to use that day in this way so we can reorganize our. We got a lot of things. We got stuff in all. We've got classes occurring all over this place, in cafeterias and in gyms, and in large spaces. So it's going to take us some time to put our rooms back together again in order to move down to 3 feet. So we might have to. I might be recommending to you that we're going to do this if we're going forward. Okay. And then, John, we have two big resolutions on here. But first is about a repair that needs to happen at 7 Bridges. So can you talk about that?
Yes. Yes. So this is actually the second time that we have come at 7 Bridges with a leak. And the first time was at the front part, and this is closer to the gym part. And this is something that we couldn't wait. And I think we also have talked to yesterday. We also discussed this with the facilities committee. And basically, there's a leak, and we have to dig down and try to stop it. Otherwise, Joe was telling us that we just have a brand new gym floor, and if we don't fix it, it would just ruin the floor. So this was done, and we had to declare this as an emergency, and in order to have this approved.
Can you just talk about the West Orchard?
Yes. And we have a roofing consultant who does our roof inspection every year, and we know the West Orchard roofs are the ones that, for the whole district, these are the roofs that really have issues that we had to repair. And originally, when we prepared the large bond, and we had these roofs need a bond, and as some of you may recall that at that time the total budget went into the 60 million range, and we just didn't think that it was appropriate to ask for that large an amount on. So a lot of items were cut out, and part of it was the roof repairs. So we come back to the point that we have to repair roofs now, and we have been using the interfund transfer. And last year, originally when we presented the original budget for the 2021 school year, we had a larger amount because we wanted to repair a larger amount of roofs at West Orchard. I think we have $500,000. But then we hit the pandemic, and the budget was reduced, and part of it was the reduction was the interfund transfer for the roof repair. We cut it from 500,000 to 100,000. So last summer we were able to do just part of it. We repaired a gym. We redid a gym roof at West Orchard. But we still have leaks, and we still need to address the issues. So we have engaged our architect, KG&D, and they gave us a proposal. This proposal, the contract is designing, repairing all the roofs. But we're going to take this into 3 years. Part of it, the $360,000 in the interfund transfer budget, is going to be this summer. And then we have 2 more summers, and we're going to finish it. But this fee with the KG&D is to do the entire roofs. So their contract is going to last 3 years.
Thank you, John. And then I want to share with you that on our agenda tonight, we have one of 2 Unity Day speakers that we plan on having interact with our kids on June 3rd. So on June 3rd of this year, our Unity Day is going to be for our middle and high school students. So Dr. Randall Pickett is someone I had the opportunity to see speak at a conference with at an equity conference for educators, and he was absolutely incredible. So we're really happy to be able to present this contract to you tonight, and he'll be kicking off the event for our kids that morning. He's really energetic. He has a tremendous message, and so we're really happy to be able to hopefully support this opportunity for our students on Unity Day. And that's the end of our superintendent's report. It was kind of long. We had a lot on the agenda, but we're done. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Christine. A lot of work going on in the district, so thank you so much for everything. Okay, we will move on in our agenda. We are at committee reports. Let's see, I can start with communications. Jane, we have a meeting set up on May 25th.
Yeah. So,
Then-
yes, nothing to report there.
Right, and I think that will just be a recap meeting with our advisory committee on how the year
Yes,
went
and to see if
what
they have
what
any other
what
thoughts
went
for
well, what we can improve on
the year.
for next year. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And on our CARES committee, that I'm on with Holly, I think our next meeting will be on the 25th. And again, we'll be doing a recap of the year to see how we move forward in the next. Is there anything you want to add?
We have health and safety tomorrow.
Yep.
With John. Tomorrow afternoon, we will have a health and safety meeting, so we can report on that. Any updates next time. And there was a CSF board meeting, so I'll just do a quick thing on that since I'm the liaison there. That was on Monday night. They had an event last week, which was another virtual event, which I want to thank them for continuing to really come up with some innovative ideas. They had a mentalist, Oz Perlman. It was very successful, so they're continuing to do some fundraising for the district, which we really appreciate, and I think we had over 100 people attending that, so it was very nice. They were successful with their auction. I know there's a lot of bidding on some really good items. So they did well, considering much more than they expected in terms of in the pandemic, and I think people still want to support the school and are very thankful for everything that the district has done this year. I know they're tying up their grants for the season. I know that they approved another Instagram, which I bet will be on next agenda, and might have some things in the pipeline for next year. And that's about it.
That sounds great. That's wonderful. Thank you, Jane. Any other committees?
Facilities and Advisory Committee meeting this week, and policy is
You did it.
good.
I actually do have something to add for the facilities advisory meeting. I know Warren had to leave a little bit early, so he missed the part where the members were raving about how well Joe Bernardo and Jason Sino have done in terms of facilitating the use of the fields, and he said they've been very responsive, they've been great partners, and it's very appreciated. So I wanted to make sure just to say that, to share that with the board and the administration, to know that they were really gushing with praise.
Yes. Another important part of the work that goes on outside of the classroom. So, yeah.
And the wellness committee is set to meet again on Tuesday, May 18th. So our next meeting is the day after.
And I have one other report. I'll try not to take too long. It's as your advocacy liaison, I received communications from NISBA, the New York State School Boards Association, on advocacy, and there are a few items there. One of them is that NISBA is calling on all officials elected to represent our state to end the federal cap on state and local tax deductions, the SALT deductions. And so they are inviting all local school boards to take action by reaching out to our federal representatives to make sure our voices are heard, and they created a letter that we can edit with district-specific information or to send. They provided a link to their website that we can click on, and they recommended that we could share these letters with members of our community. So I'll see if we want to do that, if we can do that on our website, if everyone is amenable to that, and maybe talk to the PTA about providing a link to the community to lobby our federal, our U.S. representatives on these SALT deductions. I know that, it's an issue that does have some controversy attached to it, but it affects school districts in the sense that there's, when people no longer have the deductions, there's pressure on local budgets to relieve the extra taxes that people have to pay. So it's really about school district budgeting. So that was one thing. And then they had other updates to share, which interestingly focused on pilots, payments in lieu of taxes. I don't know if all of you got the NISBA email or if it was just sent to to me as advocacy liaison, because that's how it was addressed. So I was just wondering if you have received the same email. So I'll try to share very briefly, and if you want more in-depth information, you can contact me, or anyone in the community can contact me as well if you want more in-depth information. But this is what they've been working on that they wanted to share. There are a few bills that they are advocating for. There's currently a bill. Just for people who don't know, pilots are payments in lieu of taxes that are awarded to certain developments by a quasi-governmental agency, IDAs, industrial development agencies, who award pilots to certain developments that they want to encourage, so that you pay less tax. They pay no taxes for a while, there's significantly less taxes, and make certain payments in lieu of the tax deductions that they get. So one of the things that can happen is that the underlying property, the assessment value of the underlying property can get reduced over time. And when that happens, the pilot payments also get reduced. So there's an impact to the school district. Pilots are very tricky. Now, there are a lot of unintended consequences to the school districts that are very counterintuitive or not easy to kind of guess offhand that would happen. So one bill would amend the current law to direct that any reductions in pilots paid to school districts would be phased out over 10 years if the reduction in revenue exceeds 5% of the district budget. So that just tells you what a big impact those deductions or reductions would have on school budgets. So that's one bill that's out there. Another bill would require businesses and other entities under these pilot agreements to provide advance notice of the intent to challenge their assessment. And notice would be made in writing to any involved municipality or school district at least 30 days prior to filing, so that school districts would at least get notice of the reduction in revenue. Another bill is that IDAs would give notice to school districts or taxing entities to the termination of these payments in lieu of taxes. So that just tells you that the payments can stop, and the school districts have no idea that the payments have stopped, and you have an unexpected.
They can't budget for that, right?
Yeah, so it's all a lot of intricate consequences happen that are hard to imagine unless you get into the weeds. Finally, another bill would ask to make technical adjustments to the property tax cap law, which is to incorporate, because sometimes the properties that are subject to pilots are not included in the tax-based growth factor to calculate the tax cap. So this bill would request that that they incorporate as part of the tax-based growth factor the value of the new property under pilot agreements. Apparently that's not done at this time. So the revenue that the school districts get from the pilots are incorporated in the tax cap formula, but the properties themselves are not considered in the growth factors. And the growth factor is part of the tax cap that allows the cap to go up. So, so that was the update from NISBA that I'm sharing with our local board. And there's a lot behind this, and it's. I know that it's very unclear, but it would take me a long time to get into more details. So if anyone wants, I can send them the information, and you can go on the NISBA website.
Yeah, if you could forward that, that would be helpful, because I checked. I don't think we got that update. So that would be helpful, because as we've talked about the form-based code and how that will affect the town and our tax base, etc. This is all intertwined. So
there's a lot to understand, and and I just got this information today, so I'll forward it.
Thank you. Great. Thank you, Vicki.
Okay. Let's see. So is that it for committee reports? Okay. And so now we'll move on to our regular public comment period. Anyone wishing to make a public comment, please feel welcome to come up to the microphone and identify yourself and take 3 minutes to make your comment.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kelly Mofield, and I am the president of the Chapter Club PTA this year. And thank you for the meeting so far and the great presentations.
Kelly, I'm sorry, can you speak into the microphone a little bit more? The volume is down.
I think it has to do with my mask. I have a
Oh, okay.
thick mask on tonight too, but I'll try to speak up. The first thing I want to say was not on my list of things to say tonight. And I was surprised when I came in and saw John's announcement. And I don't want to be emotional here, but I have 2 words for John. You're perfect. That's what he says every morning. You guys may know every morning he says it to every person who pulls into Bell Middle School. And it starts the day right for every child there. And I just want to emphasize what a wonderful man he is, in addition to the hard work he's done for the district on the budgets and all the financial work and keeping things sound here. He is really a gem that is irreplaceable to the district. So, you're perfect, John. Thank you. We'll have more later on that, I'm sure. I have some other things I wanted to talk about that were my normal kind of announcements, and if I don't get to it, it's 3 minutes, I know I'm going to be quick. But tonight when the 2 middle school principals gave their presentations, they did a great job, and we appreciate so much everything that they're doing. But a couple of things stood out to me that I would be remiss as the president of the PTA chair not to bring up, in light of the presentations especially. One is something that we brought up before. It has to do with the changes in 8th grade math. And I'm sure you all have heard that there are some parents who have been disappointed with the change this year, the combination of algebra, or having everyone take algebra. And when they talked about it tonight, I thought I really needed to bring that up and not leave it hanging there for the board. And the PTA is going to write a letter to, we have written a letter, but they haven't probably received it yet, an email they haven't received yet, asking for a meeting with 8th grade parents with Dr. Pease and Dr. Ackerman. They can both attend to discuss kind of what their concerns are at the end of the year, having already lived through 8th grade math this year, just to inform them for next year what they're thinking about and how things might be different for the students coming in, both from a social and emotional perspective and academic perspective, and for the parents who are struggling with it at home, trying to make ends meet from a financial perspective for them. The second thing is on the issue of equity brought up by both of the principals. And obviously the work is so tremendous this year, over the top, and amazing, and everyone's so pleased with it. And the only thing I have to say is that when we received our newsletters by email from the principals about equity, there was a reaction by a lot of people that there was a blind spot in the newsletters. And the blind spot was the absence of discussion about what the schools are doing to provide an equitable situation for students with disabilities, all sorts of disabilities. That's it. So I'll end my time because it's 3 minutes. But we also would hope that that would be addressed the next time around. The work is being done, but the blind spot is that it didn't occur to someone to put it in the newsletter with their equitable work. And so I could go on about it, I will, outside of my talking here, but thank you for that.
Okay, thank you very much, Kelly.
I'm Peggy McKetto. I'm the Vice President of the Chappaqua PTA. And I just wanted to, of course, say how much I love John and how much I'm going to really miss seeing him here. But I know that he is close with so many people in our community and has given so much, not only to the district, but to all of the families and the students, that he'll always be in our hearts. And we'll do a lot more for John, I think. But I just didn't want to say that. And then on where we started our meeting tonight with the accolades for the various students in science research, I just wanted to send out some kudos also from the Chappaqua PTA STEM Committee. We had both of our middle school Science Olympiad teams made it to the state level competition and finished in the 15th and 16th positions. We also had both middle schools won awards in the Tri-County Science Fair, and we have a team moving on in the Broadcom Masters competition. And in addition, the PTA STEM Committee, who has been doing outstanding work since they brought us the Day of Code a couple of years ago and just continue to proliferate and bring so many things, they are doing a science research workshop for middle school and high schoolers on May 22nd. And I just want to say a big thank you to Shantana Nala and Dean Rock, two parents who have given so much time and effort to STEM issues and helping students who are interested in that area go beyond what they're doing in the academic day. That's it. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Peggy. Okay, anyone else? Nope, seeing that there's no one else, we will move on to public comments. We appreciate all of your comments tonight. Thank you. We'll move on to approvals and ratification. May I have a motion to approve items 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3 to accept the minutes of the April 14th, April 20th, and April 28th, 2021 minutes?
I move.
I will second. Any questions or comments on the minutes? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
May I have a motion to open it up to discuss items, should we do the two policies at the same time? Items 3.4 and 3.5, these are the second readings of policy 6085, purchasing and bidding, and policy 6090, purchasing authority. And for possible adoption as part of the second reading. So I'll open it up and anyone.
Well, should we move to accept, should we move to adopt and then you should move? I move to.
Yeah. Jane, you move. We have a second.
I'll second.
Hillary seconds. Okay. So now we can have the discussion.
We didn't have any changes recommended by anyone from the board at our last policy committee meeting. We did make one adjustment to the purchasing authority 6090 policy based on the business office's recommendation, where we initially we had some language in there that we had actually we didn't change the language, well, clarify the language. Correct, Hillary and Warren, where we talked about when you have purchase orders that span between two specific school years, that the let me find out my spot here. We were talking when you're at the last paragraph.
I see it there, yeah, second to last paragraph.
Yes.
On the first page, the last line. Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where we would, so we discussed that we have a lot of purchase orders that are rolled over between two school years. So initially we had thought that those purchase orders would need to be reissued, but then when we understood the process of the business office better, we felt that that would be too cumbersome. So we put in this language just to ensure that a report would be provided to the superintendent, so there would be an understanding of which purchase orders would be extended between the two fiscal years. Hillary and Warren, did I say that?
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that
the goals of the policy were accomplished in terms of making sure that there were protections in place while not also making it so that the business office can't do what they need to do to function. And so tried to find a balance there. And I think that this accomplishes that.
Yeah, I think it's a very sensible solution.
I just want to thank Lauren and Hillary for their work on this, and I think you guys did a great job.
And Christine and Margot and John and Kathy, we had a lot of help with this.
Got a lot of input.
Yeah, everyone in the business office, and Margot's our attorney, so just to be clear, there's always an attorney that is helping us with these policies. So that was
It's tremendous transactional work that John does, so it's good that we're, there's so much that passes day to day that we all can't even comprehend, and that's why we're all very sad that John's leaving. But I'm very glad that we are able to clarify this so to make it easier for everyone to know what all the policies are. Thank you so much.
Okay, so does everyone feel, Christine, is there anything?
No,
I'd like to
we didn't receive any feedback from anywhere, so if the board feels like they're ready, I would ask you to consider adopting them.
So does everyone feel ready? So we have a motion and a second. So all in favor of adopting policy, the revised policy 6085 under item 3.4 and 6090 under item 3.5, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all right, it's unanimous. I recommend 4.1 instructional as presented. Okay, I will move item 4.1 instructional as presented.
Second.
Okay. I guess we're all hesitating to approve, but I think we have to. So all in favor, any discussion? Further discussion? Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. I recommend 4.2 non-instructional as presented. May I have a motion and a second for 4.2 non-instructional?
I'll move 4.2.
Okay, Holly, any questions, comments? All in favor, please say
I
aye.
just wanted to say one thing, which is I know that we're saying goodbye to Maura Marcone, and thank her very much for her service as continuing education director. And we are welcoming Francine Colandreo, known by most of us as the volunteer extraordinaire and energy juggernaut, Fran Flamino. So I hope that you will bring her enthusiasm and her large binders to the district to actually be working with us in a different capacity now, but one that we think will be really beneficial. So I just want to say a big thank you to John also for speaking with Fran. I'm very glad that she's joining us.
Yes, thank you, Fran, for taking this over. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to section 5. May I have a motion and a second to approve the CSE summaries under 5.1 and 5.2 reported to the board on May 5th, 2021. For 5.1 is for the school year
consent agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. No, we will not take it out of the consent agenda. This is an old habit.
Right, and it's a long night.
Old habits are coming back.
I don't know why. All habits die hard.
It's true. Yeah, I'm going to go through everything. No, I won't. So before we get to the consent agenda, are there any items that anyone would like to remove from it? Okay. So then we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. You have a second? Okay. So I'll just do a quick summary of the consent agenda. We have the CSE summaries from the 2020-21 school year reported to the board today on May 5th. CSE summaries for the 2021-2022 school year reported to the board on May 5th. We have educational services. We have a consent judgment for the Newcastle Fire District for reduction in assessments. We would be paying out $10,204.
No.
We have another.
I'm sorry, 10,000.
I'm sorry, I'm having a difficulty. Did I say 10 million? I'm sorry. Yeah, 10,000. Thank you for correcting. $10,204.80. We have another consent judgment to 235 SMR LLC for an amount of $3,526. We have a bid award renewal for Sanipro and Sanipro Waste Disposal and Suburban Parting. We have a resolution declaring certain items to be surplus property. We have a resolution appointing election personnel for our May 18th school budget vote and election, and to approve the use of Phoenix graphics for printing and binding of the ballots. We have the agreement for services with Dr. Randall Pinkett for Unity Day, which Christine described. We have a proposal for the architectural firm of Kayer, Garman, and Davidson for the roof replacement at West Orchard. We have the donation of the Logitech cases. And we have the rejection of a bid for the graduation tent and share rental. We have a resolution regarding the footing drain that John described with the leak in the gym at Seven Bridges, creating health and safety issues, and finding that the activity is an ordinary contingent expense, and finding that there is no significant environmental impact under SECRA, and authorizing our architect to prepare specifications and to ratify the actions to facilitate these repairs. We then have a budget transfer for the BOCES administration bill. And we have a municipal cooperative agreement with the town of Newcastle to cover additional police presence. That took place from September 1 through June 30th at the end of this year. So that's a summary of our consent agenda. Is there any discussion on any of these items? Okay, so then all in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Next on the agenda is facilities. Anything additional to report on facilities other than the change orders? Okay. So may I have a motion to acknowledge the change orders under items 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, and 6.5? I will second. Any questions or comments?
I would just, wouldn't mind like an update, since I know all of these adjustments to the STEAM Center were recently added, so I don't know if we can have a brief update. Is there anything that we should?
Well, you want an update on the change orders?
Yeah, just because they came in pretty recently, just to make sure whether, if there's anything we need to know.
It's hard, I'm having a hard time hearing on the stage tonight. But go ahead, John, can you give an update on the change orders that came in?
Oops. I mean, anything unusual, because there's a number of them with the STEAM Center that just came in. So.
No, these are all very normal change orders, and we're really at the tail end. I don't think we have more than 1 or 2 left.
Okay, that's what I was.
Because we're really closing out, and the directive that we gave the contractors that we want to close out on June 1st.
Okay.
I'm not sure we can accomplish that, but I know they are all working very diligently. There are 2 large items that may take some time to arrive because they are long lead items. One is the elevator, and so we're waiting for that, and hopefully it'll get here soon enough so we can finish in June. But there's no guarantee.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, so all in favor of acknowledging the change orders, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And now may I have a motion to approve item 7.1, which is acknowledgement of the receipt of the claim auditor's report for March 2021. I will second. Any questions or comments on the claims auditor's report? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, notice of future meetings. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, well, not a meeting, but it will be the budget vote and election, which is noticed as a board meeting as well. Tuesday, May 18th, from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the Horace Greeley High School Gymnasium. So this will be the budget vote and election for the school district and also for the library. Following that will be our meeting on Wednesday, May 19th at 7:30 p.m. At Horace Greeley High School in the auditorium, and we will have our tenured teacher recognition. Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll move to adjourn at 9:55.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, we are adjourned.
Thank you
very
everyone.
much.
Thank you.